Fairfax County, Virginia is a place where history and suburbia collide. It is home to Civil War battlefields, strip malls, and dense, quiet woodlands. But in the small town of Clifton, there is a legend that keeps teenagers awake at night. It is the story of Douglas Grifon, an inmate who escaped from an insane asylum transport in 1904. The authorities found the wreckage of the bus, but they never found Grifon. What they did find were hundreds of skinned, half-eaten rabbit carcasses hanging from the trees near the train tracks. And then, on Halloween night, they found the bodies of local teenagers strung up the same way. Fast forward 100 years. "It's just a bridge, Tyler," said Sarah, rolling her eyes as she adjusted the rearview mirror of her Honda Civic. "It's barely even a bridge, it's a tunnel." "It's the Bunnyman Bridge," Tyler corrected her from the passenger seat. He was holding a camcorder, the red recording light blinking in the dark. "And tonight is Halloween. This is prime time for a sighting." In the back seat, Mark and Jess were huddled together, sharing a flask. "If we get arrested for trespassing," Mark said, "my dad is going to kill me." "Relax," Tyler said. "The cops patrol this area, but they don't go into the woods. We park a mile out, hike the tracks, and wait for midnight." They parked the car on a secluded dirt road off Colchester Road. The air was crisp and smelled of decaying leaves. The moon was full, casting long skeletal shadows through the bare trees. They hiked along the train tracks for 20 minutes. The gravel crunched loudly under their boots. "So what's the actual story? Why a bunny suit?" whispered Jess. "Because he's insane," Tyler said, lowering his voice for dramatic effect. "When Grifon escaped, he lived in the woods. He survived by eating rabbits. Eventually, he started wearing their pelts. But over the years, the legend morphed. Now people say he wears a mascot costume, a dirty white Easter bunny suit, and he carries a fire axe." "That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard," Sarah laughed. "A killer bunny? Really?" "Laugh all you want," Tyler said, "but in 1970, a couple parked under the bridge. A guy in a bunny suit smashed their car window with a hatchet. That actually happened. It was in the Washington Post." They reached the bridge. It was a single-lane underpass built of dark stone, with train tracks running over the top. It looked like a black mouth gaping open in the hillside. The tunnel was covered in graffiti, layers upon layers of names, dates, and crude drawings of rabbits. "Okay," Tyler said, checking his watch. 11:50 p.m. We have 10 minutes until midnight." They sat on the concrete embankment near the tunnel entrance. Mark passed the flask around. The woods were silent, too silent. "Did you hear that?" Sarah asked suddenly. "Hear what?" "A whistle, like a train whistle, but faint." "There are no trains running tonight. The line is active for freight, but not this late." "I swear I heard it. And something else, like chopping. Thwack, thwack, thwack." It was faint, coming from deep in the woods above the tunnel. It sounded like an axe hitting wet wood. "Probably some other kids messing with us," Tyler said, though he pointed his camera toward the sound. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Silence returned. Then, at exactly midnight, the temperature dropped. A cold breeze swept through the tunnel, carrying a scent that made them all gag. It smelled of copper and musk, the smell of a butcher shop that had been left in the sun. "Oh God, what is that?" Jess gagged. Tyler stood up and shone his flashlight into the tunnel. The beam cut through the darkness and illuminated something hanging from the top of the archway on the other side. It was swaying gently in the breeze. "Is that a doll?" Tyler asked, zooming in with his camera. It wasn't a doll. It was a rabbit, a real rabbit, skinned and gutted, hanging by its ears from a piece of twine. Blood was dripping from its nose onto the asphalt below. Drip, drip, drip. "That is sick," Mark said, standing up. "Some psycho killed an animal. We're leaving." "Wait," Tyler said. "Look past it." He moved the light further into the tunnel. Beyond the rabbit, standing in the shadows of the underpass, was a figure. It was tall, at least 6'5". It was wearing a dirty, white plush rabbit costume, the kind you'd see at a mall Easter display, but decades old. The fur was matted and stained brown. One of the floppy ears was torn off. and in its gloved hand, it held a rusted fire axe. The figure didn't move. It just stared at them with the costume's large, unblinking plastic eyes. "Run," whispered Sarah. "Run!" Tyler screamed. They scrambled up the embankment, away from the tunnel. They didn't run back toward the car. They panicked and ran into the woods, up the hill toward the train tracks. "Don't split up," Mark yelled, grabbing Jess's hand. They could hear heavy footsteps behind them. The Bunnyman wasn't running. He was loping. His stride was long and uneven, crunching through the underbrush with terrifying speed. Thump, 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 thump. They reached the train tracks at the top of the bridge. The moonlight illuminated the rails, stretching endlessly into the dark. "Which way?" Jess cried. "Follow the tracks," Tyler yelled. "It's faster than the woods." They sprinted along the wooden ties. Tyler risked a glance back with his camera. The Bunnyman had crested the hill. He stood on the tracks, bathed in moonlight. He raised the axe above his head and let out a sound. It wasn't a roar. It was a high-pitched, giggling squeal. Hee 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 hee. It sounded like a child laughing, but distorted. Wrong. "He's fast," Tyler shouted. "Move!" They ran for what felt like a mile. Their lungs burned. Sarah tripped on a loose rail tie, skinning her knee. "Sarah!" Tyler stopped to help her up. "Go! Leave me!" Sarah sobbed. "No!" Tyler pulled her to her feet. Mark and Jess were ahead of them. They turned a bend in the tracks and screamed. Tyler and Sarah caught up. Standing on the tracks, blocking their path, was a wall of carcasses. Dozens of rabbits were strung up on a line stretched between two trees on either side of the tracks. But it wasn't just rabbits. There were raccoons, stray cats, and a deer. They formed a curtain of death, dripping blood onto the gravel. "We have to go through it," Mark said, his face pale. "I can't," Jess cried. "We don't have a choice." They pushed through the wall of bodies. The wet fur brushed against their faces. The smell was overpowering. As they emerged on the other side, they saw a light ahead. A small, dilapidated shack stood near the tracks. Smoke was coming from the chimney. "Maybe someone lives there," Tyler said. "Maybe they have a phone." They ran toward the shack. The door was ajar. Mark kicked it open. "Help, we're being chased," Mark yelled. The shack was empty of people, but the walls were covered in photos. Polaroids, hundreds of them. They were tacked up everywhere. Tyler shone his light on the photos. They showed teenagers. Some were smiling, unaware they were being photographed. Others were terrified, tied up. And in every photo, in the background or reflection, was the white rabbit costume. "This is his house," Sarah whispered. "We ran right to his house." Tyler panned the light to the corner of the room. There was a table. On it sat a row of human heads. They weren't real. They were masks. Masks made from the skin of something. And in the center of the table was a fresh, bloody rabbit pelt. "He's not chasing us," Mark realized. "He herded us here." The door slammed shut behind them. Mark spun around and grabbed the handle. "It's locked! It's locked from the outside!" Thwack! An axe blade burst through the wooden door, inches from Mark's face. Splinters flew everywhere. Thwack! Another blow. The wood shattered. Through the hole they saw the white fur. They saw the plastic eye. "Here comes Peter Cottontail," a voice sang from outside. It was a deep, gravelly voice that mocked the children's song. "Hopping down the bunny trail." "The window!" Tyler shouted. "Break the window!" The shack had one small window in the back. Tyler smashed it with his camera. He cleared the glass shards with his elbow. "Jess, go!" He boosted Jess up. She squeezed through the frame and fell onto the dirt outside. "Mark, you're next!" Mark scrambled out. Sarah followed. Tyler was the last. He climbed onto the sill. The door finally gave way with a crash. The Bunnyman stepped into the shack. He looked at Tyler, perched in the window. He didn't swing the axe. He waved. A slow, playful wave with his paw-like glove. "Hippity-hoppity," the Bunnyman whispered. Tyler threw himself out the window and hit the ground hard. They ran back toward the tracks. They had no idea where the car was anymore. They were lost in the Bunnyman's territory. "We need to get back to the road," Mark yelled. Colchester Road runs under the bridge. That means going back to the bridge, Sarah screamed. It's the only landmark we know. They circled back through the woods, avoiding the tracks this time. They could hear the Bunnyman whistling that same tune, echoing through the trees. He wasn't running anymore. He was stalking. They reached the embankment above the Colchester Overpass. Looking down, they saw the asphalt road below. It was empty. No cars. We have to jump, Mark said. It's a 12-foot drop. Better than staying here, Tyler said. They slid down the steep concrete slope. They hit the road, jarring their ankles. Okay, Tyler panted. The car is a mile that way. We just sprint. As they started to run, a blinding light flooded the tunnel. It wasn't the Bunnyman. It was a car. Hey! Hey! They waved their arms frantically. Help us! The car slowed down. It was an old pickup truck. The driver rolled down the window. He was an older man in a flannel shirt. What the hell are you kids doing out here? He grumbled. A maniac, Sarah sobbed. A guy in a bunny suit. He has an axe. The old man's face went white. He didn't ask questions. Get in the back, now. They scrambled into the bed of the pickup truck. The old man floored it, tires screeching as they sped away from the bridge. Thank God, Sarah cried, huddled against Tyler. We made it. They watched the bridge recede in the distance. The tunnel was black and empty. He's gone, Mark said, exhaling a breath he felt he'd been holding for an hour. The truck drove for about 5 minutes down the winding, dark road. Then suddenly, it slowed down. Why is he stopping? Tyler asked, looking through the rear window into the cab. The old man wasn't stopping. He was slumping over. His head hit the steering wheel, and the truck swerved onto the shoulder, crashing into a ditch. The impact threw them against the metal sides of the truck bed. Are you okay? Tyler groaned, sitting up. My arm, Jess whimpered. Tyler jumped out and ran to the driver's side door. Sir, are you all right? He opened the door. The old man was dead. There was a hatchet buried in the back of his skull. It had been thrown through the rear window of the cab from the truck bed. Tyler spun around. Crouched in the back of the pickup truck, hidden under a tarp they had been sitting on, was the Bunnyman. He stood up slowly, the white fur now stained with grease and fresh blood. He held the fire axe in one hand. He had been in the truck the whole time, waiting. Hippity, hoppity, the Bunnyman whispered. He swung the axe. Tyler ducked, and the blade embedded itself in the metal roof of the truck cab. Run! Tyler screamed. Mark and Jess scrambled out of the truck bed. Sarah fell, twisting her ankle. The Bunnyman yanked the axe free. He looked at Sarah, lying on the ground. He tilted his head. Tyler didn't run. He grabbed a heavy tire iron from the truck bed. He knew he couldn't outrun him, not with Sarah hurt. Hey, Fluffy! Tyler yelled. The Bunnyman turned to look at him. Tyler swung the tire iron with everything he had. It connected with the side of the bunny mask with a sickening crunch. The plastic shattered. The Bunnyman staggered back, dropping the axe. He brought his hands up to his face. Tyler didn't wait. He grabbed Sarah and dragged her into the woods. Mark and Jess were already ahead, calling 911 on a phone that finally had a signal. They heard sirens in the distance. The police were coming. They looked back one last time. The Bunnyman was gone. The truck was empty. The axe lay on the ground. But hanging from a tree branch above the truck, swaying gently in the wind, was a single white rabbit's foot. The police found the truck and the body of the old man. They searched the woods for 3 days. They found the shack filled with photos and pelts, but they never found Douglas Grifon. Tyler's footage went viral, but the police confiscated it as evidence. The authorities claimed it was a copycat killer, a drifter. But Tyler knows the truth. When he hit the Bunnyman, the mask had cracked. He had seen the face underneath for a split second. It wasn't a human face. The skin was raw, red, and skinless like a flayed rabbit. The teeth were long and yellow, and the eyes were pink. The Bunnyman isn't a man in a costume anymore. The costume has become the man. Every Halloween, the police close the Colchester Overpass to prevent legend trippers. They say it's for safety, but the locals know the real reason. They close it because sometimes at midnight, if you stand on the bridge and listen closely, you can hear a whistling tune. And then you hear the axe. Thwack, thwack, thwack.